chaos.
We bring fire, we bring pain endlessly. Make you live death, morality. We're children of soulless dead entities. We, the lifeless, do this well.
I had originally planned to do an impressions video of Stranger of Paradise's first demo back when it dropped during E3, but as other videos took longer than expected, it eventually got to the point where it felt too old to make a video on it now. But since there is a second demo with a noticeable amount of changes, I get another chance to hype up this game as something that you should not sleep on. First off, I want to say that I love the mid-2000s edgy aesthetic this game is going for. It's so unabashed in what it is and what it wants to be, and has no problem rocking it. I hope that with the reception from memes and people talking about the game after these reveals, they don't course correct any more than they already have. Fidelity-wise, the second demo looks far better comparatively, at least in the Shrine of Chaos. They added some more colors in certain areas, but I honestly really liked the more muted blues and turquoises used in the first demo. It made the place feel haunted and sickly, like chaos is a disease feasting on the land, which is basically what it did in the original Final Fantasy 1, if I remember correctly. The room you fight Garland in is far better looking in this demo comparatively, and looks more like it did in that original E3 trailer, because the room in the first demo looked like it had some missing lighting effects. For those who never got the chance to play the demo since they don't own a PS5 and wonder what the game feels like, it's just Neo. It doesn't really surprise me that this game got revealed only a few months ago and is coming out in March of 2022 unless stated otherwise at a later date, because so much of this game is just Neo and reuses a ton of things from both games. And hell, if you're gonna asset flip in some places, why not just use Neo 1 and 2 as a base? They're really good games. You play the demo for 5 minutes and then you start to see things that are noticeably similar or exactly the same, from menus to animations to the HUD to enemies. Like the fireball just has a bunch of the moves from the flame wheel, and the harpies have the dagger throw attack from the Nagas in Neo 2. For me, it's less of an, oh, they're so lazy and they're just reusing this from Neo, and more of a treasure hunt to try to figure out how they are reincorporating things that they already have. My favorite series made its name on asset reuse, so I'm no stranger to it, nor does it really bother me when it's done well, and it certainly is here. The combat of this game takes some interesting divergences from Neo to add a Final Fantasy flavor to it, and it really impressed me just how well these blended together to make a super fun combat system. Instead of a stamina meter you find in Souls-like games, which all of your moves feed from, you have a mana bar for special attacks that you can cast at certain points of your combos, which you get to choose from in a God Hand style choose your own combo route menu. This really opens the possibility for combos, but the one issue I did run into with special moves is that most enemies and bosses do not have enough hit stun for you to properly pull them off without getting hit in retaliation by them. This is especially prevalent with the 3-hit combo special moves. At some points it feels like you're slamming against an immovable object, because while they have some hit stun when you attack them, you can't make them falter or cancel them out of their attacks other than with specific counters for specific moves. So you will find yourself animation locked in some of the longer special attacks and get hit because it isn't juggling the enemies at all. Like the second boss of this demo, I usually died if I ended up attacking them with any of my special attacks, unless they were in their knockdown ball form on the ground, because they would just one-shot me while I couldn't cancel out of my attack into a parry. The biggest Final Fantasy twists in this game are, instead of having the multi-stances of Neo for each weapon, every weapon is tied to a specific job or jobs. You have your entry-level jobs like Mage, Swordsman, and Lancer. Then, after you progress enough through their skill trees from leveling up, you can access advanced jobs. Some of these require you to get progress in multiple jobs to get the advanced job, like Red Mage requires you to get both Mage and Sword Fighter about halfway through their skill trees. In the first demo, you were able to upgrade your skill trees at any point in the pause menu, but in Demo 2, you could only do it at the bonfire equivalents. Personally, I'm not a big fan of this because it just feels like it's out of the way to do, and I found it much more enjoyable just to level up as you go at any point. I feel like just because it's kind of like Neo, which is also kind of like Dark Souls, doesn't mean it has to be exactly that, and can take some liberties, so leveling up at bonfires doesn't feel like one that needs to be necessary. It's far more enjoyable just to level up as you go at any point, especially once you're unlocking new jobs and you're leveling them up really fast in the second mission against higher level enemies. It just becomes kind of a chore to unlock an advanced job, then run out, level it up a bunch, and then you have to run all the way back or keep progressing while sitting on tons of points, potentially a bunch of new moves that you can't use yet, just so you could run to the next bonfire and level it up. It makes even less sense that they did this when compared to Neo and Neo 2, where the bonfires were only used to level up, and you can learn new skills at any point as long as you paused the game. But I guess since this game doesn't have a level up system like a Souls game, they had to put it there at the bonfire because otherwise you would only go to it just to get new healing items and heal up respawning enemies. For the second demo, you were given 2 new jobs right from the start, the Pugilist and the Duelist, along with even more advanced jobs like Red Mage and Thief. You have the ability to swap between 2 active jobs on the fly and mid-combo with Triangle. One of my biggest complaints with the first demo is how unresponsive the job swapping can be, and would result in errors since I was expecting to be in my other class. While it seems to be more responsive in the second demo, it still feels too inconsistent for my liking. I also find that only 2 active jobs to swap between is not enough. 3 would be great, but ideally 4 would be perfect. Since this game is like Neo, the game does not stop when you pause, and can be really awkward to fumble through these menus to swap to one of your non-active jobs in the middle of combat that you really need. And you'll be needing to swap around jobs because enemies have weaknesses both to specific weapons and elemental attacks like you would find in your standard JRPG. The thing about combat that made me really love this game is how interactive it can be and the interesting stuff that can be pulled off. For example, during the Garland fight in Phase 1, he'll buff his sword with a fire spell. This gives his basic combo an extra swing and a trail of fire, along with giving new properties to his lunge attack like this massive explosion. If you have the mage job active, you could hit him with a water spell and it will put out the flame buff on his sword. When entering Phase 2, you break his sword, so he'll use an ice spell to make a replica of it. If you hit him with a fully charged Firaga spell, the sword will shatter, putting him into a faltering state again. This also extends to basic enemies and the environments you combat them in. Like the fireball enemies I mentioned earlier, you can blast them with a water spell to extinguish them, or you can shoot a few fireballs at them to make them grow in size until they self-destruct, which can cause a chain reaction if multiple are huddled together. When you're fighting these wolves, you could cast fire on the grass, which then becomes an AoE fiery arena that damages all of them over time. Or you can cast a lightning spell on these bodies of water to electrify them. You really need to play with this aspect of the game in the forefront of your mind, because if you start to ignore it, you're going to have a hard time. Like, I was really struggling against the second boss of this demo, and then I realized, wait a minute, if I parry one of their ground slams, I get the attack, which then makes it so I can detonate their mines on the ground and damage them. One of the Neo holdovers is the game's loot system. Now, I'm not particularly a fan of this. I was hoping they'd have gotten rid of it for Neo 2, because that was honestly my biggest complaint with Neo 1. But the thing they changed for this demo that I really liked about it is that you don't have to stop and actively pick up dropped gear. You just pass over it and it's added to your inventory. The interact button for this game is the touchpad on the PS5 controller, which is kind of awkward at first, so being able to mindlessly pick up everything and equip the best gear in the menu with a single button press is perfect for me. I don't think there is a system to get rid of your other gear yet in the demo, but I'd imagine in the full release it'll have you selling everything or smelting it down in some form like the Neo games had you do. As of this demo, my current favorite job is the Pugilist/Monk. The speed and extra distance your dodge gets when you have this job active makes you feel so nimble. The combos are fast and fluid, along with your special moves being super cool. The mage job feels too important not to have as one of your actives to swap between, which is why I want to have at least 3 or 4 active jobs, so the other jobs don't feel like they're being relegated, so I can use the one I like the most and the other one that is too versatile and useful to ignore. The job I liked the least was Lancer. I only used it enough to unlock the Monk job. It has some cool special moves like the prop shred the split staff had in Neo 2, but overall I think it just feels really slow. When I played the first demo, I had just finished Neo 1 and was currently playing Neo 2, and the spears in those games are so fast and felt like one of the best weapons, so it's jarring to jump from a game that feels just like it, but the weapon analog feels far worse. Your AI companions seem to be better than in the first demo. They added the ability to make them fight more aggressively for a short period of time by hitting left or right on the D-pad when their meters are full. They still have an issue that was a real annoyance in the first demo of standing near or in front of basic enemies and bosses, so the enemy's attacks would end up getting caught on your allies and would make you mistime your parry. This was something that constantly happened to me during the Garland fight. The biggest thing I want to see changed in the full release, or if they're going to do a third demo, is how the parry works. Your parry is tied to the yellow meter at the bottom middle of your screen. You could hold parry for as long as you have meter while it drains down, or you can perfectly time a parry to only consume a small amount. Consuming that small amount is where I drew issue with it. You can perfectly parry 10 times in a row, but if you even slightly mistime the 11th one, your gauge will break and you'll be put into a faltering state and usually results in you dying. I love the parrying in this game. It's so much fun to basically play a rhythm game with Garland and create my own anime fight scene by perfectly shutting down all of his attacks. My friend did make a good point that this is probably here so you don't just spam parry, but the game shouldn't have made it so addictive and fun to do, and shouldn't let me parry all the moves other than the unblockable red attacks that are just lifted directly from Neo 2 down to the same red mist animation. I'd like it if the perfect time parry didn't consume meter or gave you some other bonus. If they did that, I'd be completely on board with them making it a harder window to actually land a parry successfully. This would make it even cooler and a bigger achievement if you're able to pull off multiple in succession. If they don't change it, I guess it won't really be the end of the world for me. It'll be kind of an annoyance in the back of my mind wishing it was slightly different, but it's still fun nonetheless. I'm really interested to see where they're going to take this game. And like I said at the start of the video, I hope they don't course correct at all for the story and aesthetic of this game based on reception. I fully expect this game to be a massive hit of 2022, and this is 100% a day one purchase from me. If you've made it this far into the video, I just want to say thanks for watching as always. If you really liked the video, please leave a like, comment, and pass it around. If you really like the channel and want to support it, maybe consider becoming a patron on Patreon. All patrons get access to videos a day early, along with a $7 tier that gets to see behind the scenes footage and rough cuts of incomplete videos. I'm now going to shout out my $5 and up patrons who really help support the channel. Bully, Akita Fishkiyama, Lucy the Fox, Bluntman 4200, Elliot Morton, Lotto, Nathan Redding, Papaya-chan, Slemf Tingle, Ben Johnson, Chichometrius, Dusty the Zombie, Ekfrazo, Filthyfinger69, Fishkami, Joshua D. Larino, Justin Collini, Kevin Velasquez, Nicholas Pedinato, Onion Girl, Poke Joke S, Quartz, Ruben Rodriguez, Star Fox, Some Panda, the FOE3, The Unthinkable, and William Moore. Thanks so much, guys. If you're a card game player of any kind, I have a TCG Player affiliate link in the description below. Any purchases you make using my link will give me a small kickback, so it's just another way to help support the channel. As for what's next, I'm not really sure. It's probably going to be something short again, just because I'm trying to get a bunch of short videos out to keep ad rev up and keep retention up and keep views up, because honestly, it's been slumping a little bit in the times between videos. So I'm trying to get out a bunch of stuff to supplement that dip from the past few months with stuff that I know is short and easy to make. Hopefully I could still find the time to make the Yakuza 2 retrospective and the Drakengard 1 retrospectives. I don't know when they'll be. Hopefully before the end of the year. They might not be. I don't want to make any promises. But as always, thanks for watching and see you next time.